with this aircraft, there are 6 emergency exits.
Hello, everybody. This is Rod, your captain speaking. We are currently 30,000 feet in the air, and we haven't even left the airport. We just lit the joint. Just kidding, a little pilot humor there. We like to have fun. Our destination today is Casablanca, Morocco. So everyone, sit back, fasten your seatbelts, and prepare for takeoff. We will be arriving in 6 hours.
What's going on, 7-Footers crew? It's your girl Jenna here and Jarod, and if you can't see, I'm wearing orange because of my sons in 7. Don't come for me, Jarod.
Listen, I picked Suns in 6. So I'm not coming for you. Like it's been a finals, right? And Milwaukee has figured some things out, and we'll get into it as we discuss. But we're on the precipice of possibly seeing the Larry O.B. going to Milwaukee.
Larry O.B. in Milwaukee, and what is it, 55 years or something?
Yeah, I mean, the last time they won a title, they were led by a man by the name of Lou Alcindor. Those of you young folks out there may know him as Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And Oscar Robertson, right? Those were the guys that last led the Milwaukee Bucks to an NBA title, and that was a long time ago.
And I don't know if you've been surfing online, checking out what the kids are talking about, but there's going to be some Bucks legends in the house tonight. Little Dr. J will be there, speak of the devil.
Well, look,
Brandon Jennings, they're popping up online.
Listen, they're going to be some people in the house, right? Like, as there always is for a game-clinching NBA Finals. And it's possibly what this is, right? The Bucks win tonight. They do, in fact, clinch. So, we'll see.
And Jarod, here's where my worlds collide. Do you also know who's going to be in the house for Game 6?
I imagine some kind of entertainer. I believe Kanye West will be in the house tonight.
Yes, Ye is going to be in the house tonight. He's about to apparently drop an album. I'm hearing it's a masterpiece. And hoping he addresses the divorce, which he's allegedly supposed to do. But this
wait, who's going to ask him questions at the game? You think Malika maybe?
No. I'm saying he's dropping an album.
Oh, the album will address. I thought
and
at the game he was going to address. I was like, who's going to talk? Okay.
Please, Jarod, I'd be on my way to Milwaukee right now.
You know what? I mean, first of all, shouts to Malika, who's been doing an excellent job taking care of the sidelines and all the great interviews she's been doing for the finals. I wonder if she's going to try to get a Kanye interview.
I would literally...
I mean,
my night would be made.
He's also wearing that full-on hazmat mask, so that might make it tough for him to speak.
Yeah, I mean, unless he could speak his voice through his eyes, Malika's not going to get much tonight with that mask. Just see him at the big 3,
Oh, my God, Kanye. He's,
all right. Well, this ain't these entertainment streets up in here because I'm wearing orange for the first time in my life because I have sons in 7, so hopefully we can push this out to 7. Now let's talk about Game 6. Milwaukee leads 3-2. They can clinch the series and get their first, what is it? We just talked about it off air, Jarod.
First title in 50-something years. Yeah.
50-some years.
Yeah.
And this is magnificent because the Bucks had a complete series turnaround after coming back from being 0-2. And let's also not forget that Giannis Antetokounmpo is playing with that hyperextended left knee. So again, I'm assuming he's playing through pain or he's playing through some sort of issue there. So that'll be interesting as well. Let's talk about Milwaukee to begin, because I just said that they had such a series turnaround, especially with Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday, who have been absolutely amazing. And then, of course, Giannis in a category of his own, clenching records and different things of the sort, putting his name up there with MJ and big guys like that in the league of the greats. So what has Milwaukee done exactly that has given them this edge?
Well, look, Milwaukee's size and length is bothering Phoenix, and it's bothering them big time, right? That's a piece of this. But also, the last 3 games, Milwaukee has turned Phoenix into a one-man band, right? They've turned them into the Devin Booker show. And that's not how Phoenix got the second best record in the league this year, how they stormed their way through the Western Conference, and how they jumped out to that 2-0 lead. The way they did it was by ball movement, player movement, and the ball zipping around. And Milwaukee has taken that away. They've really shut the valve off on Cam Johnson, on Mikal Bridges, right, on those wing corner threes that Phoenix is used to getting. And it's forcing them to go, okay, you're going to go Devin Booker 1-on-3, right? Because then it's, can Booker score enough to beat Giannis, Middleton, and Drew? And the answer so far has been no, right? Like even when he scores 40, right, if Giannis is getting 30 and either Drew or Chris have a good game, they're toast, right? Because they're not getting their production from other places. So it's funny, Jenna, we kind of have to give Bud some credit here for making that defensive adjustment. Take away Phoenix's corner threes, make them do things they don't want to do. You know, I said this on our last pod. I've said this on several other shows. The way in which you attack a team defensively is to take away what they want to do primarily, right? Make them go to their secondary, tertiary, fourth, and fifth options. There's a reason why those options are third, fourth, and fifth. It's because they're not as good as number 1 and 2. Well, we want you to do 3, 4, and 5, not 1 and 2. And that is what Phoenix does not want to do Devin Booker iso ball. That's suboptimal. But Milwaukee's defense has forced them into that. And I mentioned the size and the length of Milwaukee with Lopez out there, with Giannis, right? It's with Bobby Portis. That wears on you after a while. The hardest thing to do in this league is score over size, particularly when you don't have size yourself. As good as Chris Paul and Devin Booker are, they're not 6'9", 6'10" dudes, right? Chris Paul is 6 foot on a good day in shoes, right? And Devin Booker is 6'4", 6'5", right? Like that. And the thing is, those guys aren't going to grow, right? And add 6 inches overnight. So they are what they are.
And is their only big man.
Their only
Literally,
big
let's
man.
be real.
And
like
when
you
he
said,
goes to the
Chris Paul
bench,
on a good day,
yeah,
just 6 foot.
Yes. When DeAndre has to, because think about it, the Sarge injury is hurting them because without Sarge, when DeAndre has to sit down for rest, the Suns go small. Well, Bud's like, cool, you go small, we're going to stay big, and they're gobbling up all the offensive rebounds, and they're protecting the paint, and the Suns don't have a counter. Now, can the Suns get back to some other stuff? We shall see. But that's what's happening.
Yeah, and I think you might have mentioned this before. The Suns' ball control has completely taken a 180. They started out so strong, moving fast, pushing the paint, really good offensively, but now the Bucks have been the ones to kind of be juggernauts on the offensive end. And like you said, too, shout out to Bud, who has made adjustments, because I think that was one of the things that we talked about, that he wasn't making adjustments in the very beginning. So coaching strides for him. I like what I see there. Let's flip the script here and talk about the Suns, though, because literally their backs are against the wall. It is win or go home for Game 6. So what are they going to absolutely need to do and not need to do to take over Game 6 and push a Game 7?
Well, so this is interesting, right? The Suns all season, Jenna, have not lost 4 games in a row. That hasn't happened all season. They are currently on a 3-game losing streak. They lose tonight. That will be the first time they lose 4 in a row. And what a bad time to have a 4-game losing streak in the NBA Finals, because that will then end it for you. And that Larry O.B. is going to be in Milwaukee. So it's what I talked about with the Bucks. It's the reverse with Phoenix. They've got to get back to that ball movement, right? They've got to cut and move and loosen up the Milwaukee defense. What have I been saying for the last 3 weeks? Would you rather guard somebody in space or guard them in a tight crowd? You'd rather guard them in a tight crowd, right? Phoenix is allowing the Bucks to play their defense in a tight crowd, right? They're not getting cutting action. Guys aren't moving. They're going to have to do some things to loosen up that Bucks defense, right? Get them a little bit off the string so that then Chris Paul can attack the paint, right? Booker's playing well. I think he will. And I think it's going to come out sometime well after the series that, Chris Paul is clearly playing through an injury, right? Like that left wrist, left hand is obviously bothering him. But he's going to have to summon some sort of extra, ordinary strength to really have an excellent. And I don't mean he has to score 40 points. I mean, he's got to get into the teeth of the defense. He's got to be able to, because what the injury with that left hand is showing, Jenna, is those passes he normally makes that are crisp and right on point are not. And the Bucks are getting fingertip on him, getting out in the steals, running out, and having transition points. he's got to have that game where he's making those pinpoint passes from in the paint, and those guys are knocking down wide open corner shots, or they're shading to get a little bit over it, right? Just that's what they're going to have to get back to. And of course, Booker's going to have to play amazing. The other thing I think Phoenix is going to have to do, DeAndre Ayton, who's been playing well, will have to continue to play well, continue to do things where he's dominant. When they switch, he's got to smash whoever that small person they put on him every time. And he's got to go at it with that jump hook and really put the pressure on the Bucks front court. Look, when Milwaukee won Game 2, when Phoenix won Game 2, they shot 20 of 40 from 3, 50%. They're going to need like 20 threes tonight to win. And Milwaukee's going to have to not shoot well. So it's going to be a tall order. But look, Phoenix won 2 games, so they can do it. And listen, all things being real, they had a chance to win Game 4, right? So they know what they need to do. They just need to execute it flawlessly tonight because there's no margin for error.
Well, absolutely, there's no margin for error because, again, it's win or go home. But let me ask you this, because I think it's safe to say that Chris Paul needs to have an elite level game in Game 6. Would you say that's the same type of answer when I say it's obvious or safe to say when we say this game, specifically Game 6, is the most important game of his career?
I hate doing that. Is this the most important game of somebody's career?
I do too, but I only ask because this is the furthest, obviously, he has ever made in the postseason in his career.
No,
so
I'm with you.
I ask it, and it's an interesting question, isn't it? Because you really think about it.
Yeah, no. I'm with you. We both lament this hot take, this is a legacy game for. I don't believe in that. Chris Paul. I know you did not. I know. We don't do that here. We don't do that here. Chris is one of the great point guards and great winners of all time. A hands down, undeniable Hall of Famer, regardless of what happens in this series. But to your point, this game is the most important of his career because, as you so eloquently pointed out, he's never been in the NBA Finals before. And Jenna, as we know in the history of the NBA, there is no guarantee he's coming back next year. It took him 16 years to get to this point. It may not happen again, right? So it is, part of it's age, whatever, but that's for any player. The idea that, don't worry, we'll be back next year. You don't know that. There is nothing guaranteed about teams making it back. So I think that, yes, from that standpoint, this is the most important game of his career in terms of him wanting to win that Larry O.B., right? Yes, because of the stakes, 100%, this is the most important game. Is it going to be a defining game from how I view him legacy-wise? No, only if he's able to summon up, let me say this in other words. If he plays well and they lose, that's not going to knock him in my book. If he plays well and wins and forces a Game 6 and he somehow finds a way to help them win Game 7, does that help elevate his total accolades? Yes, because then he has a championship on his resume, right? But does that change who he is as a basketball player in terms of just straight skill? No. And I think that's the thing, Jenna. When we have these conversations with, players, and does this game matter for this? What does it mean for X? It matters for their career resume and what they accomplish, right? How many those kind of counting things. But in terms of just strictly basketball skill and what he's able to do on a court, this game and Game 7, if they're lucky to win this one, that's not going to change that, right? So it's like when we're having these conversations about who's a better player X or player Y. What are we arguing? Are we arguing straight up who can play basketball better? Or are we arguing who has the better resume in their career, right? Those are two completely different arguments. And guys have better resumes than others for a variety of different reasons. Better teammates, all different things, right? But yes, to your point, in terms of this game tonight for the fact of for purposes of winning a NBA championship, yes, this game is the most important game of his career.
Yeah, I mean, when you put it in a vacuum, it is the most important game of his career. However, when you break it down, like the internet will, annoyingly, this is going to ruin his legacy. This is it. It's over. No, because the people who say that are not, I don't want to use the word educated, but they are not informed clearly on the greatness of the point guard that is Chris Paul. One of the only point guards left that has that old school mentality point guard way of operating and sees the floor in a way similar before anybody gets crazy to LeBron James.
No doubt,
When
no
it comes
doubt.
to calling plays and seeing the floor, he's, like you like to say, 10 steps ahead
No
of
doubt.
most in
No
that
doubt.
aspect.
He, the other thing too that why Chris has been struggling. Drew Holiday has been incredible. I mentioned the Bucks' size and length is starting to bother Phoenix. Like Drew is just hounding Chris all series long, and it's wearing on him, right? Look, Chris is 30. However old was he? 30.
36.
36. I mean, he's feeling it, right? This is hard work. And Drew's not like some little 6 foot nothing, 150. No, this dude is strong, man, and he's just picking him up full court, and just he that's wearing on you, right? Like no matter how much days off you have in between, this is physical, intense basketball, and it is wearing on Chris. Again, he's going to have to summon that next level, right? Can he dip into the fountain of youth and into the well tonight to pull off another outstanding game? It's funny you talk about legacy and all that. I've seen stuff on the internet. If Giannis wins this championship tonight, where does that place him amongst? And I'm just like, why do we do this stupidness all the time? Like, so I saw the stat where it's like, if he wins, he'll be the only player besides Michael Jordan to have at least two MVPs, a Defensive Player of the Year, and an MVP. And I'm like, why do we make up these silly ass stats just to like link people? It's so dumb. And it's again, it's to have these idiotic Twitter conversations, which we are not going to have. Look, Giannis's career is still going. So I have no idea where his ultimate career accomplishment resume is going to stack. I don't know. We'll talk about that whenever he retires. I can talk about him as a basketball player, his skills and what he's able to do. And yeah, he's getting up there, but he isn't quite, in my estimation, in terms of just pure basketball skills and what he's able to do. He is not up there with the all-time greats yet, right? But he's knocking on the door.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you in that standpoint. Yeah, and just last note, too, about these two teams. One of my favorite things about I see Malika on TV. Giannis is warming up here. One of the amazing aspects about the finals is you get the opportunity to actually fall in love with a series for a while, because there's only two teams left. You're not missing games because there's 10 on a night. So you're getting to know these players on a different, deeper level because they're on the highest stage. So the sound bites are amazing. The explanation from Giannis about how he has tapped into his mindset, amazing. And then we also get the sound bites like Devin Booker saying on The Jump that it's, don't compare me to Kobe. These comparisons, I mean, I look to him as a mentor, but I haven't thought about this. Like, don't compare me. I shouldn't be compared. And these are all interesting conversations, better than the, who's the GOAT talk on freaking Twitter, which people are just absurd these days. So, yeah, we're getting a lot of good stuff out of these playoffs. But let's move on here and talk about, regardless, win or lose, because we're literally on the highest stage at the end of another NBA Finals. What is the future looking like in Milwaukee? What's the future looking like with the Suns? We have Chris Paul, who has a player option on his contract, and he could opt in or out, or he can try to go somewhere else and request a bigger deal, or stay around with the Suns. There's other free agents in the trade conversations when August comes, so after the draft in July. So Chris Paul has an option with the Suns. He's been a veteran presence, great mentor to this young core, arguably responsible for the complete culture shift and turnaround in Phoenix when we used to call them dumpster fires. And then we have Giannis, who we thought we didn't know if he was going to renew his contract or come back with the Bucks. And then we also have people with their foot in their mouths now asking, why do we pay Drew Holiday? Oh, wait a minute. This is why we pay Drew Holiday. And then Chris Middleton, who solidified himself as the number two when we were having a conversation. Could he be the number two? I'm saying all of this because there are so many storylines, so many narratives. So let's start in Milwaukee. What do you see for the future of Milwaukee, win or lose? Because this is the furthest that they've gone.
Yeah, so you brought up a lot of good points there. Win or lose, I think it's safe to say Bud's going to get a contract extension, right? So the whole idea about, hey, the Milwaukee Bucks job is going to open up, Bud's getting fired, that long gone, right?
At one
Bud's
point, would have put my money on.
but Bud's going to lock up a contract extension there. That's number one. So their coaching side will be set. From a player perspective, Giannis is what, 26, 27, something like that.
I think he's 26.
Okay, Middleton's 29, Holiday's 31. So their big three, their core, they're signed up and they're locked up long term. So they're going to be a good team at least for the next 3-4 years, assuming no injuries and everybody being healthy, right? Because with those three, you're going to win enough games in the regular season to be a playoff team and be among the top teams in the entire NBA. And what's so great about Milwaukee is their three best players, who I just mentioned, Giannis, Chris, and Drew, are also their three best defensive players, right? That's a luxury most teams do not have, right? So they're going to be a good squad for a long time. Is this dynastic? I don't know. We'll see if they win tonight, right? Or if it goes to Game 7. If they win Game 7, we'll see. But they have the pieces that are there. The thing about Milwaukee is looking at them long term, around the fringes, right? Because everybody knows, all right, you got your stars, but around the fringes, what are you doing? Milwaukee is not a free agency destination hotspot, right? Guys aren't lining up to like, ooh, let me go play over there. That really isn't how it goes, right?
When's the last time you heard somebody say, whether it was in athletics or not, yes, I can't wait to go to Milwaukee.
Nobody.
Let's go.
Nobody ever. and this is not before the Milwaukee people get up on my mentions. Sure, it's a lovely city. I'm just telling you what I know other NBA players think about when they think about Milwaukee. It isn't high on their list if they're a free agent. Now, how much does Mark Lazary and Wes Edens want to spend in luxury tax? Because, right, they win a championship. Okay, maybe all worth it. But if you want to keep guys like Portis, PJ Tucker, etc., you're gonna have to start paying a little bit more cash. Are you gonna go to luxury tax? How deep in the tax are you willing to go? How are you going to develop draft picks and young talent around them, right? Because, again, I don't know how many guys are going to just sign up and say, yeah, I'll take a veteran minimum and go to Milwaukee. Maybe some might. I don't know. So that's my only concern about Milwaukee. But from a long-term standpoint, at least the next 3 to 4 years, because those three guys are locked up under contract, they're in a good spot. For Phoenix, it's interesting, right? Their core and their young core. So I'm going to take Chris out of this for a minute. Book, Ayton, Mikal Bridges, right? You're talking about 22 for Ayton, 24 for Book, and I want to say Bridges is somewhere around the same age, 22, 23, something like that. That's great, man. So their young core is there.
Yeah.
They are, right? Now, again, we know about the history of the NBA, Jenna. Just because you're young and you've been to the finals, don't mean you're guaranteed to go back every year. I always bring them up. Look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, right? They went with those three guys, with the young KD, young Harden, young Russ. Everybody's like, oh, don't worry. They'll be back 5 more years in a row. Never went back again, right? Like,
What happened there?
I'm just saying. And yes, there were, of course, the trade, things happen, whatever, but that's the NBA, right? So there's no guarantee, but you have to like where you're at as the Phoenix Suns with those three guys being young. The question about Chris Paul, what do? He's almost certainly going to opt out of that $42 million last year, $44 million last year, because 44 because he's going to get a 3-year deal somewhere. Now, it won't be a 3-year, supermax deal, but it'll be a 3-year deal. It's pretty good. And the question is Phoenix, is Robert Sarver going to say, you know what, Chris? Yeah, we'll do 3 years at, I don't know, $90 million, right? We'll do 3 years at $100 million, whatever, right? Like, we'll see. I don't know.
He was reportedly vying for that.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what he wants. He wants 3 years, so he gets an extra 2 at the end, right? So that goes into, by the time he's 40, he's still got $30-something million being paid to him, which, listen, these guys have short earning lifetimes, so you maximize and get as much as you can before you walk out of this league. I get it.
Secure it.
And so I believe that's what they're going to do, and I think Phoenix has, from sources I've been talking to, Phoenix has the inside track to keep him. But, things can happen. Who knows? But I think Phoenix will be the one team who will pay him that much money, and I think he'll stay right where he is. And then looking forward for your Phoenix, it's, okay, what can we do? Because we see what our deficiencies are, right, as we're in the finals. We need another young backup big behind Ayton, right?
Yes.
Somebody, because when Ayton's got to sit, we can't have that be our only 7-footer and only person with size. Who can we have to play backup center, right? Who can obviously score inside, but can also maybe stretch the floor a bit. And then they have the Crowder to worry about. Are you keeping him? What's going on there? what else can you do on the wing from a 3-and-D perspective? I think Campaign is also probably going to get paid, right? He's a good backup point guard for them. How can his skill set develop more so that he can lighten the load on CP3 during the regular season, right? So he's fresher come postseason. So, but I think the future's bright for Phoenix as well.
I agree. I think people will call me crazy, but I think next season Devin Booker has a chance to be in the MVP conversation.
Sure, he certainly does.
Playing like he's playing now.
He certainly does. He certainly does.
I mean, the sky's the limit for him at this point. To see the development of him, it's so important to mention because we keep talking about Chris Paul, the greatness of Chris Paul, which, don't get me wrong, Chris Paul is playing at an incredible level at 36 years old, injury prone, admittedly, and most likely playing through an injury right now, and the Suns haven't said anything like we've been seeing with some of these injuries with these guys. And rightfully so, you're in the finals. We don't want to, give away all of our skeletons in our closet. But, yeah, I mean, to keep Chris Paul you're getting the total package. You're getting somebody who's going to produce for you on and off the court in that veteran teacher kind of role, coach. And the relationship with Monty Williams, I mean, that's a whole podcast for another time.
For sure. I mean, you mentioned Chris being responsible for the turnaround. I mean, Monty is just as responsible, right? Monty Williams and Chris, because Chris, it's cliche and I hate using cliches, but Chris is that extension of Monty on the floor, right? And that's so important for this Suns team. And they're getting valuable experience, right? I mean, remember, guys, this is Booker, Ayton, Bridges. This is their first playoff run. Their first. They have never been to the playoffs until this.
Damn impressive.
And their run to the finals, right? So they're gaining a lot of, and they're understanding, as we always say, the difference in playoff basketball. When teams know your every single move, and they're forcing, what's your counter, right? And that's what Bridges and Ayton and Booker are learning. Like, oh, this playoff ball, this is different, right? These guys are coming out here different. And so, what are they going to work on in their games to improve coming back next year? The other thing, too, is that, if they give Chris a new deal, where's that going to put Phoenix as it relates to the salary cap and the luxury tax, right? And again, how much does Sarver want to get in there? Because I did mention, as I said, they need a backup big, and they need some shooting on the wings, more 3-and-D on the wings. So, it'll be interesting to see what they do this offseason.
If you could throw a big into the mix after the season, of course, for the Suns, who could you see there?
Oh, man. Who could? I mean, he's older. He's not young, but someone like a Dwight Howard, right? Who can, he can't space the floor, but Dwight can rebound, protect the rim, right? Because that's where they struggle, right? Is that when Ayton goes out, there's no one to deter Holiday and Middleton from getting into the paint, right? You need someone like that. You look at there are young bigs on rosters all over this league who are getting no minutes, or who are getting limited minutes. Can someone and the Nets likely won't give him up, but can someone like Reggie Perry help the Phoenix Suns? I'm sure he can. The Nets probably ain't giving him up, and I wouldn't if I were them. But there's so many guys of that ilk who are young, who can be helpful. And so it's really going to be about the Suns doing their homework around the league, looking who's a restricted free agent, who's in the draft that's available that we can turn and develop. Remember, nobody thought Cam Johnson was going to be this, but we saw Cam, right? Similarly, wherever we pick, is there a big in this draft that we think, this guy could be a good backup big for us? So they'll have some opportunities and some homework to do this offseason.
Very, very interesting. And that's going to be a fun conversation to go back to once this is all over, to see how each team finishes out the finals, to see how the draft goes, to see how free agency goes, and revisit that to discuss the future of these two particular teams. Because if you do think about it too, last note on this, you just kind of opened my eyes a little bit with the Suns. I mean, like you said, this is their first playoff run. I can't believe they're here.
Yeah, first run.
You made it past some teams that you shouldn't have made it past, arguably. So,
I mean, you beat whoever was in front of you in whatever condition they were in, right? That's all you can do.
Well, Jarod, we must move on because I know you have some things to address.
Well, it's just really about, this Milwaukee Bucks team. And, we get on here, and I know I killed them at times. People, listen, we beat this Milwaukee Bucks team up for a lot of reasons. But what we're seeing out of them in this run they've gone on the last 3 seasons is what we're used to seeing in the NBA, right? And that is teams going through adversity and multiple runs before they ultimately get to that NBA title, right? In this era of super teams created by the players, not developed by the teams, I think we lose sight of that, right? It's,
Agreed.
The Warriors, they just win all the time. Oh, this team, the Cavs, they just win. Da-da-da. It's like, it used to be, right? Teams like the Pistons, man, they had to bust their ass and get beat by the Celtics, right? It took them forever. And then when they finally did beat the Celtics and get to the finals against the Lakers, they lost again, right? I mean, it's the continual heart. And there's something about when a collective group goes through the pain and they can come back year after year after year. Look, we talk about it. They were up 2-0 on Toronto the year the Raptors won the NBA title in the conference finals. Raptors win 4 straight. They get boat raced by Miami last year, right? And these are two, again, having the 2 best records in the league those 2 consecutive years. Everybody's like, all right, Bucks, go on the championship. Giannis, MVP, best player in the league, right? They were feeling it. They for whatever reason, they weren't ready and it wasn't happening for them. Now, this year, they finally get out of the conference. They get to the finals. They go down 0-2 in the finals. At its own level of adversity, right? Mm-hmm. But they're able to tap in.
The injury with Giannis.
The injury with Giannis. But they're able to tap in as a group and together and say, guys, we've been forged through the fire, right? We've had some rough spells, right? So they can tap into that. No, we're okay. We can bounce back, right? We have that cohesiveness, and it's great to see the Bucks again. I don't know. They may not win tonight. Who knows? But push through this adversity and look, and let's say they lose, right? And they lose game 7. That's another piece of adversity, right? Yeah. How would they come back next year? So I think the ability for teams to deal with adversity and come back and push further, that's a huge thing we don't talk enough about. And kudos to this Milwaukee Bucks team for doing that.
I absolutely love everything you just said, because you are right. We get so wrapped up in the dynasty super team era that we lose sight of what truly makes these great, historic, incredible triumphs is the teams that just boom, boom, boom. They make it so far, but they just keep falling down, and then they finally make it. So yeah, I love that. We should do a separate episode on just that kind of stuff.
Adversity. Monty Williams said it after game 3, I believe, 4 or 4, whatever, one of those games. And he said to his team, everything you want is on the other side of hard, right? And that's just not about basketball and the NBA title. Of course we know. Winning the NBA, I say this all the time, Jenna. Winning in this league is fucking hard, man. Winning that Larry O.B. is hard. Think about it. It's a 1 in 30 lottery chance. That's what you're hoping for. 30 teams, only 1 wins. It's 1 out of 30. That's difficult. The majority of players in the NBA will never play in an NBA Finals in their lifetime, or a conference finals. It's hard to do this shit. Okay?
Exactly. You're right. And that's another great point too that should open the eyes of people, analysts, fans, anyone who's watching this story unfold and talking about Chris Paul and riding along with the headlines. This man is 36 years old. Obviously, this is the latter half of his career. This is his first NBA Finals. 1 time. And to be honest with you, if I'm Chris Paul, if I'm human, I'd be sitting there thinking to myself, this is it, probably. I mean, unless we can come back next year when the NBA is a completely different league. And I say that just because the play-in tournament has been signed on for the next season. You have everybody coming back. And when I say everybody, hopefully Klay Thompson and the Warriors, which is game shifting in the West. And then you have the Nets coming back, which that's another Thor movie.
You have the Hawks. Listen, year to year, we don't know who's going to be good, who's going to come out of nowhere, who's going to... Again, so I think what Chris is doing is he's realizing it ain't about the past, it ain't about the future. Tonight, this game, the present, I've got to focus here. This is where my and as a top tier competitive athlete, they know this. It ain't about yesterday, today, right now. What am I going to play at? How am I going to play at the best I can today? And that's what makes these guys great. So we'll see what happens. Prediction standpoint, I said Suns in 6. That's obviously not going to happen now. But Jenna,
I won.
well, you didn't win because
You technically lost first. You know how I get. I get petty.
you do get Betty. I think it'll be tough tonight at home with the chance to clinch this. I just see Milwaukee, being a little bit better in those moments. And again, they just have, when you really think about it, Jenna, the Bucks aren't just the better team. They have more guys who are better, right? Like they just do.
On paper, they are the better team.
Right? They have 3 guys who, when they're playing well, the Suns are going to have to shoot like 90% from 3 to win. Right? But I said to you, the 3 best offensive players for the Bucks are also the 3 best defensive players. So when those guys are playing their best games offensively and defensively, not a lot the Suns can do. They don't have a lot of counters they can go to because their roster's limited, right? And I just see that in the clutch moments tonight, I think the Bucks are gonna, the Bucks are gonna have the edge. Now it wouldn't surprise me if Phoenix won. But Phoenix has already beaten this team twice and could have won Game 5, right? So it would not surprise me. And then if it goes to a Game 7, who the hell knows what's going to happen in that? All bets are off. Anything can happen in Game 7. But I'm leaning Bucks tonight. I just think they're going to find a way to close it out at home.
I have to stay true to myself and my
course.
orange tank
And your
top.
prediction?
And my prediction, I'm doing and staying at Suns in 7. I'm not going to be a little hopper. I'm going to be a true Valley girl.
Rally the Valley.
Oh my God, all the Valley girls probably hate me right now. So yeah, Suns in 7. But this is going to be interesting. It's so interesting and bittersweet because the NBA season could be ending on the night that we're recording this, which is Game 6. But we can't forget that in 9 days, guys, you're not going to escape us because the NBA draft is coming to New York City. And apparently they're selling tickets. So
Yes,
hopefully
at Barclays Center.
safe,
Yep.
up in there, will you be covering that? Or
No, I will not be doing the NBA draft. Now that this Delta variant and this COVID situation.
well, now I'm scared again.
Yeah, it's like this whole idea, and even though, we're vaxxed, obviously, but this indoor thing where I don't know who else is vaxxed, nah.
Right.
I'm gonna be limiting a lot of that, so I will not be.
Plus,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, depending on how they do it with COVID. I mean, remember we're all usually in those little press rooms.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
sardines.
and I don't know how they're gonna be organizing any of that. I'll cover it from the safety of my couch.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing it this year either.
But I will say this: you did mention the draft coming up, free agency. So
August 2nd, 6 p.m., baby.
yeah, it's crazy. So actually, guys, just a little housekeeping for the old 7-footers here. We will not have an episode next week because your boy is going on vacation. I need a little R&R time to get away from the the grit and grind and just relax my mind. So we'll have an episode back out on Tuesday, August 3rd. So what we'll do then is we'll recap the draft. We'll do a quick NBA Finals postmortem because whether it goes 6 or 7, we'll quickly touch on that. And then it'll be 24 hours in the free agency. We'll have lots to talk about in terms of who might be going where, what teams are doing, etc.
So excited. And Jarod, think about it. Remember when we used to get done recording this seasons before the pandemic and the NBA was on track with their regular schedule, we would be sad because we would have a long break. And now it's like,
I mean, look, we're going to have like 6 weeks off after free agency. Then it's like, all right, back for the NBA season in October. But it's all good. We love giving you guys this content. As usual, you know where to find us. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. We are at 7footers Pod on Twitter, at 7footers Podcast on Instagram, at JS Hector, at Jen Lemoncelli. And until, not next week, but the week after next, take care. Peace.
Peace.
Spent a couple years out here with these raps, trying to have a plan that we made come true. Applied to some jobs, but I ain't hit back. I don't wanna trap, what's a man gonna do? Chevy told me come